Hi everyone, welcome to Where We At show. My name is Cisneros, your host, and today we're traveling to Barrie. That's right, we're gonna visit our friend Chris at the spare room, Share Artist Studios, where we're gonna get to see his work, his amazing studio, his practice, and to get to know him a little bit better. So thank you so much for tuning in, and let's begin. Thank you so much for having us in your studio. I'm really excited to be here. Um, One of the things that I wanted to ask you is if you can tell us when did you finish OCAD? When did you graduate, and which program did you study?
Yeah, so I graduated in 2023 from the drawing and painting program. That was my major, but I also minored in sculpture installation, so I am a multidisciplinary artist.
Wow, yeah, because I met you at the Foundry,
Yeah,
and that's how I get to know your amazing work and work ethic too, because we worked together.
yeah.
So that was pretty amazing. Then what happened after you graduated? Like, how was the process?
So after I graduated, my first job was as a studio assistant here also in Barrie for a public arts artist named Solomon King. He has an installation going in at Nathan Phillips Square, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't work on that project, unfortunately, but I did work on other projects for other institutions like the University of Toronto. So that was great. And there I met my current employer, and now I'm employed at a local business that's an art store and also does art classes. So I'm an instructor there.
How does it feel making the jump from a student now to a professional artist?
It was definitely nerve-wracking. I was nervous about being able to find a job in my field. I think as artists, like we know the reality is that we are probably going to have to find like a day job to supplement like our income because our career as like solo artists and it doesn't always take off right away. And I was really happy that I was able to integrate into the community here in Barrie, Ontario, the arts community pretty smoothly and find not just one but two jobs in my field.
That's incredible, and I find it that's really an amazing and a great accomplish. Um, can you tell us a little bit more about your practice?
Yeah. I think that the main word that I use to describe my practice over the year has been the art of decreation. And that's because I work with materials that I destroy or burn, typically using fire, in order to create ashes. And then I mold my own oil paints using those ashes as pigments. And that oil paint is like an essential component to my artwork, especially my painting practice. But I am also experimenting with ways to implement it in my sculptural practice by using it as a casting material. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to how those works pay off.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, especially because of the materiality that you use, and it's really important to
Yes.
you, and the process too. It is really important to you.
Yeah.
Um, how does it feel like to burn things, like to create your own material that you're painting with?
Yeah, so the objects I burn are usually significant to the message that I plan on painting later on. So it's usually quite empowering. One of the pieces I'm working on had to do with burning certificates that dealt with my dead name, which as a trans man is a very important, like a very important change I made because that was like one of the aspects of my identity I felt kept almost like haunting me. So I burned different certificates containing that name and photocopies, obviously, because a few papers wasn't going to be substantial to create the amount of pigment I needed. Um, for my thesis work, I burned paintings that portrayed um, different traumas and stuff that I've confronted in relation to not only my gender identity, but also my cultural identity. And that was, even though it was like a lot of labor that went into the production of those, it still was this powerful thing to burn them and symbolize like a moving on and healing.
It's not just poetic, but also I think the process and the action of doing it is also healing you, but also it's creating something new and reinforcing your identity. And I find it really fascinating, the process, but also it is an act of activism in a way too. Can you tell us about this beautiful piece that this was also in your thesis?
No, so this was a study done, and it wasn't the one that was translated to my thesis.
Okay.
So this is just a study of one of the poses. I ended up going with 3 different poses that did end up making it to like my final work shown in thesis. But this is like, the same subject matter, the same kind of ideas, and
this is what I find fascinating, that I know so many people know, especially people who are not in the art scene or they are not artists, that are like, sometimes we do work in terms of the research, in terms of the materiality, just to experiment, sometimes just not just to study a pose or the material, but also like just to be creative and in sense of like to see where the process will lead to, like more like a researcher and investigation in those terms. And this is, I mean, the example of that I like, sometimes there's so much work behind it that is not shown into an art show or into an exhibition or even into a piece. So I find it really, thank you so much for bringing that out.
Yeah. So this is done in the ash pigment. This is when I still added a lot of the coarser material and didn't just so that matter gets like sifted out, and I don't mull it into the paints. I add it back in afterwards, and I just feel like sometimes if that's not in there, people don't they don't recognize that the paint is something other than just regular oil paint.
Can you tell us about this work, the meaning behind it? And I mean, it's stunning and beautiful because it seems more finished than the one that you're working.
Yeah, so this was the first one in the series, and this was really like kind of like the make or break. Like I was trying to figure out if these pigments were going, if like the like palette was going to clash with the vibrant nature of the textiles. So I chose the most saturated one I could find. Like as you saw with the piece behind me, like the colors aren't as saturated, and I stretched it and started painting on it with the palette. I loved this fabric so much that I purposefully thinned out the color so you could see the striations of the fabric behind it. Also, when I was stretching it, I put too much tension on every other staple, so that it would create kind of this wavy pattern to represent kind of like the tension that's happening with the practice of chest binding, and how that relates to trans identity. And yeah, it kind of set the tone for this piece. Not only did I feel like the colors worked well, but I also started playing with the translucency of certain textile elements in the piece and how they are just shaded in like a black glaze basically, so that the colors of the fabric can still come through and we don't lose too much of that. Because if this was solid, then it would just be this small strip where you would see the beautiful textiles. So I really wanted it to come through throughout the composition.
About this artwork, do you have a name?
I don't have a name yet.
Okay.
Sometimes I come up with the names beforehand. This is not the case. I took this reference picture and it was intended for that canvas originally. I just felt like I was like forcing it on that canvas, and I ended up just building a completely new one. It's like this kind of trapezoid composition, and I just feel like it's almost like the top, like as if the canvas is being forced at the top, which I feel matches the like what's being portrayed as my chest is binded in the piece. And this piece it's a pretty simple, straightforward concept. It's me, a trans man in like a traditional skirt, which was one that I used to wear when I was younger. The ribbons in the skirt will have the fabric showing through, just like the other works in the series, where the fabric will be showing through at some points of the composition. And honestly, the reason for making this, aside from the line being about family and cultural dynamics as a trans man, was because prior to this, I didn't feel comfortable. I would have never felt comfortable posing in attire that is typically like more feminine attire. And I just felt like there was something really powerful in finally being comfortable enough and confident enough in my identity to be able to do this and still feel like it's a masculine pose, and it's still portraying me in an authentic way.
Well, I want to thank you for having us. It was amazing to learn more about your artwork and learn about your practice and showcase some of the beautiful paintings that you have and the beautiful artwork. I wish you an amazing collection that you're going to show up and an amazing opening. Hopefully you will let us know when it's going to happen.
Yes, I have a solo show at Arts Etobicoke on May 15th. I believe the opening's scheduled for 6 p.m. And you could find me online at Chris_and_chaos on Instagram and Canales.Cisneros.format.com.
Yeah, we will put that information so you can follow him in all his social media and check out on his work. Amazing work. I admire you so much. And again, thank you so much. And don't miss out these fabulous episodes. And yeah, keep watching us. So thank you so much. It was so nice to see you. And thank you for having us again.
Thank you for visiting me in Barrie, Ontario.
Yay! Okay. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.